Thank you, Paul. I'll just take a minute of editorial privilege to thank Paul and his team for bringing this event, their first event in the U.S., to Nebraska, to really the heart of the bioeconomy. We are thrilled, and I hope you are as well. I think the interest shown is a great indication that this is the right place for this discussion. And the other thing that I'll point out, the last time we were all together doing this in The Hague a couple months ago, well, two things. Number one, I just love the format, and I hope you are all taking advantage of the opportunity for those one-on-one meetings that really is the point of the way that Paul and his team design these events. Number two, when we were there, Mike, Devin can confirm, I promised it would be 69 in the room because it was not 69 in the room in The Hague, right? It was like 80. And we're pleased to have air conditioning here in the States. Thank you very much. We are very pleased to share some insight from these panelists with you today. And really, as Paul said, this is such a key part. One of the things that we learned in this event, or the companion event in the Netherlands, was that there's a lot of innovation, a lot of expertise, a lot of science happening. But what we really offer in this neck of the woods is the opportunity to scale. And thus, I think this is a really appropriate and important panel for all of you to hear from today, talking about how Nebraska's and the Midwest's scaling up ecosystem has the opportunity to really make a difference. As Paul said, I am Casey Belitz. I work for the Department of Economic Development. In that role, we're certainly interested in startups as well as established businesses who need the resources, the infrastructure, the things that we have to offer to continue their own scaling up journey. Today we have, as I said, really just a stellar panel, and I'll introduce you to them, and then we'll start hearing from them. We'll start at the far end. Mark Norman is Vice President of Economic Development at the Greater Omaha Chamber. He leads their efforts in fostering business growth and attracting new industries to the Omaha region, and it is truly a region that Mark and his team serve. He has just a wealth of experience in economic development. He's been instrumental in creating strategies for that organization in this region that support businesses as they grow from startup into established enterprises. Next, we have Nicole Sedlacek. She is the Economic Development Manager for Nebraska Public Power District. And so she has really a deep understanding of both energy and the infrastructure that's necessary there, as well as the economic development background all across the state that businesses, again, need to scale up in Nebraska. She works closely with startups and also established companies alike to ensure their energy needs are met, helping them grow in a sustainable and efficient manner. Up next is Cliff Fleener from Omaha Public Power District, where he is Vice President of Sustainability and Environmental Affairs. Cliff brings to the panel a wealth of experience in driving environmental stewardship and sustainability initiatives. He has a strong background in regulatory compliance. I mean, what's more fun than that? Regulatory compliance, corporate sustainability strategies, and environmental impact mitigation. Those are big words, Cliff. I'm proud of you. And up next, and finally, is Kelly Knopp, principal and founder of Citroniq, a biomanufacturing startup. Citroniq is revolutionizing sustainable food and ag technology with an innovative approach to biomanufacturing. Kelly brings the firsthand experiences of the challenges and the joys and the sorrows of scaling up a startup, particularly in the complex and fast-evolving field of biomanufacturing. Citroniq's first project will be strategically located right here in Nebraska, and they will be making sufficient quantities to keep costs low and allow compounders and molders to build dedicated production lines. And again, he's limited every day. So we are excited to hear from this panel as we talk about how to take startup to scale up. So let's start. Kelly, we'll start on this end with you if we could. In your experience, going back to the title of this session, is there really a textbook scale-up journey? Is there such a thing? And maybe what are some of the key milestones and turning points in your journey that you've experienced, and how did those compare to what you thought going in?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. As Ferris Bueller said, life moves fast.
That's right.
And you got to be pretty flexible in today's world. Things don't stay the same. So the quick answer to your question is, I don't think there is a fixed answer there.
Yeah.
We're a little different because we're using proven technologies, but our first step was to say we have to be at scale when we compare ourselves to a conventional plastics producer. Because otherwise, every day for the next 30 or 40 years, we're going to be at a higher cost position than what really is the competition. So our first step was to say, what's a conventional, off-the-shelf, polypropylene plant size that we can just take right off the shelf? So 400 KTA of plastic, which is 900 million pounds. So it's a little daunting. And pretty soon you roll the costs up. It's big numbers, but it's kind of like that's the ante to play the game. You're not playing a game with specialty chemicals. We're in the commodity chemical business, so that's a scale game. If I had a couple points, because if you think of bench scale to commercial, that's new technology. That's kind of what people think of when they're thinking about scaling up. But I really think of two things that we've seen as particular challenges. One is inflation, in that we've spent 2 or 3 decades with a blessing of no inflation, and that makes life a lot simpler just from understanding the dynamics of pricing. And suddenly now with this inflationary environment, what we've seen is fundraising is so much more difficult. If you're a private equity guy, there's a lot of money out there, a lot of capital, but if you can make 5% at no risk, you can kind of take your time making decisions. If you're making zero, the people that gave you that money are getting a little impatient on how they get a return. So we've seen a much more difficult fundraising approach. The other one is that I think is often missed is the kind of the off-plot supply chain issues. Today's world, Nebraska lived it with CO2 pipelines. Putting pipelines in the ground is pretty tough these days. Getting Class 6 permits are difficult. So you have to really understand everything outside your plant to really make the plant successful.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's talk about some power issues. And Cliff, Nicole, I'll just ask you both to respond from your sort of different perspectives within that space. So public power districts in Nebraska, how do you support startups and then balance that with the sustainable energy practices that obviously are going to be a key part of any of these scale-up journeys? So interested in the balance from both of your perspectives.
Great. Well, first, I'll just say that the biggest advantage we have in Nebraska, I think, is as public power. We serve our customers and their interests first rather than shareholders.
I'm going to try a different mic.
Let me try a different mic here. And so that gives us really good results. Thank you. Here in OPPD's range, our rates are 25% below the national average for industrial customers, or 15% below for industrial customers, 25% plus below for our commercial or retail customers. Just from the very beginning, we have a more economically beneficial, more economically friendly location for businesses to get started. We also are number one in reliability in the Midwest, and that's obviously critical for any kind of manufacturing process. And we have to balance this between sustainability and reliability.
Right.
Obviously, it's critically important. If anyone has been here for the last year, we've had some record-breaking storms. The impact of climate can be felt very hard. We had a massive storm just a couple months ago, our largest outage ever. We were able to get back on our feet within a couple of weeks. It was quite remarkable. We understand the climate impacts are real, and we have to be able to deliver power reliably on a regular and consistent basis at the right price. And we're also working to decarbonize. Our near-term generation project, which was approved by our board just last year, 90% of the power from that is going to be coming from renewable sources. And we're working forward to hit our net zero goal by 2050 and are working to improve our carbon performance along the way and help our customers also through our various economic development efforts to reduce their carbon footprints through efficiency and through distributed generation.
So what I'll add to that is, in addition to the low-cost energy that our public power utilities bring to Nebraska, and that number one in grid reliability, is that I think, we have this environment where collaboration and partnership. We want to help startups understand. We want to understand from startups what are their needs, and how can we identify solutions and partnerships to reach their needs. Is it, are they wanting some behind the meter renewable generation, or is it, they want to be 100% renewable? Can you utilize what's already existing in our portfolio, or do you need new resources to meet that? And so really trying to understand what it is that the startups are wanting to accomplish. It could be that corporate goal of sustainability, or it's, again, your customers are requesting that or demanding that from you. I think our public power utilities here, we really take a collaborative approach to partnership to identify those unique solutions that you need for your company to grow and scale up.
Nicole, I want to ask just a quick follow-up on one of the items that Cliff brought up there, and that's the sustainability. And specifically in your role, you've met face-to-face with startups and other established businesses for years. Do they understand the critical piece that the reliability plays in there alongside the price?
So I think that sometimes is a learning opportunity, and just really taking the time to understand that. I think the reliability piece, but then also the price of it, but then just also the timing of it. Sometimes we see projects that want to scale up really fast, and to protect the integrity and the reliability of the grid and not jeopardize other users on the grid, that it just takes time to build out this critical infrastructure, not only to serve the load of the startup company, but that renewable piece to it. Right. It takes significant infrastructure to build out that, and time and money.
Yeah. So, Mark, from a chamber perspective, again, you've certainly met over the years with a whole lot of people, from people that just had an idea to established businesses along the way. So, would you share maybe some of the common misconceptions that startups may have about the scale-up journey that they're on, and how do you guide them toward a realistic path, let's call it?
Yeah. And we see that a lot. So a lot of the times we're working with companies that are siting their first facility, right? And so they have very aggressive timelines. They say, hey, I want to get a shovel in the ground in 4 months. I want to be commissioning in 24. I want to be scaling to production in 30 months, which is great. You have to have those aggressive timelines. However, they tend to underestimate the amount of preliminary work that has to happen before you can get that shovel in the ground. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we see a lot of delays happening out there. And a lot of it is things that can be talked out. Utilities obviously is a key thing, right? Power, water, sewer. How is it going to get there? Where's the path going to be? How long is it going to take? Who's going to pay for that? What incentives are available out there to help with that? So, working with your local economic development group, whether it be a city or a county or a utility group, finding that person who knows how the system works and how to connect you to the right people is key. So I think that's important. A lot of times we see permitting and entitlements being a roadblock out there as well. So it's not something where you can just go and you may have to do a zoning change. A lot of times the local governments will have it a certain zoning so that they can control what happens and have a little bit more say how those things develop. So being able to get connected with, we always recommend a local civil engineering firm that's got experience in that particular area, that knows how, what documents have to be submitted, what format, how many copies, and so forth. And that can really help eliminate some of those delays out there, because they know the system and they can do that. And then also schedule a pre-development meeting with the city or the county, because that then gives you the opportunity to sit down and talk through the project with the folks that are going to issue those permits. They're going to be in charge of that zoning. And you can eliminate a lot of the potential issues that are out there. It's amazing how, I've seen, sidewalks, fences, ingress, egress be an issue. that they're not necessarily big issues, but okay, that adds a week. All right, that adds another week. That adds a week. And pretty soon you're a month, 2 months behind your schedule. And those are things that you can try to avoid. And, you know, if you need a height restriction, if you have odors, those type of things, that can be handled well. And then again, the incentive process that's out there, right? The incentives can't make a bad site good, but they can certainly add to the bottom line if you do it right. So working with the state, working with the economic developers to make sure that you're understanding the programs and getting the applications in and what documentation has to happen along the way. And then once you're in production, don't forget about them. A lot of times people go like, okay, well, I gave that to accounting. I'm assuming accounting's handling it. Well, not necessarily. Well, there's a lot of times we've gotten, have you taken your, have you got your performance-based incentives yet? Oh, I need to check on that. And so they check on it. It's like, oh, yeah, that's a good thing. So those are some of the things that we see as kind of delays and how do we help the process along.
You bet. Thank you, Mark. So, Kelly, from your firsthand experience, what are some of the critical commercial milestones that you think startups should be tracking, thinking about, and how do you assess when it's the right time to scale up to the next stage?
A couple things. One is, most investors are looking for where are you selling the product, where are you getting your feedstock. And a lot of times in this new world of bioeconomy, you are creating products that are new, that take a new introduction. We've seen it in Texas with something simple like hydrogen. You'd say, well, hydrogen's been around a long time, but not really as a market. And so they found out, it's a lot more difficult to get people to switch from, say, natural gas to hydrogen, even though it's sustainable. That just doesn't happen overnight. It takes different equipment and it takes, infrastructure. So that's one differentiator. For us, we're making a commodity product, polypropylene, that's, chemically identical. So that's not as big of an issue, but investors are like, where are your contracts, right? So I think that's the key. The market will tell you when you can take that next step, right?
Right.
And there is a momentum to that. That the hard part is coming from a cold start, but once you're rolling and especially if you can start producing some product, then if that product has value, then the momentum will really pick up.
I'm going to add in one for the rest of the panel, just any of the three of you or all the three of you related to that. What are the questions or issues that you hear from those businesses when they walk in the door in terms of scaling up? What are the elements that you hear going into those kinds of decisions from the businesses that you're talking about in terms of when is it right for them or is it right to start even? Maybe they're a true startup and they're not yet at scaling up. What are some of the things that those businesses are asking you about?
I mean, one thing that always comes up is workforce, and so where's my workforce going to come from? How am I going to do it? And again, that's something where we can help you understand what the market is like, and we always talk about becoming an employer of choice. And to be able to say to that company, like, hey, I'm paying well, I'm treating my people well, it's a great work environment, because a lot of your workforce is going to come from those referrals, right? Your personal referrals, right? And so that's important. And, as we move forward, those partnerships with the educational institutions are going to be very important as well. Partnering with community colleges, partnering with the other higher education. Nebraska has started with partnership with community colleges, the Fermentation Collaborative, which again is going to be a key thing to help with that innovation and moving that scaling up as they look to expand those operations.
Workforce is a big piece of that. I also do think the energy piece of it, though, especially if maybe they're a large user, can I get the energy that I need, and can I get it when I need it? And I think our public power model in Nebraska works really well. That we want to find solutions to serve your needs. I know I take it for granted when I flip the light switch and the light comes on. It is very complicated for the energy grid and the balancing of the grid for all of this to happen and the lights to come on when I flip the switch. And so I think just understanding and just, for the utility to really understand that what your load is, and the proper studies are all done, and we account for the time frame for that, and that we have a mutual understanding of when we can serve your load and when you can expect to be served, I think is a really important conversation that startups and companies are asking, and that the utilities are really wanting to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just add that, it depends on the type of business, of course. There's different needs at different sizes. One of the things that I think about a lot is how can we help our customers, new customers come in, how can we get them better access to new markets by greening their supply chain, which is part of it is their electricity that they purchase from us. How can we partner with larger firms or data centers or other businesses to help them reduce their carbon footprint, gain better access to better markets, burnish their credentials where they feel appropriate to be able to make more money and continue to grow the economy. So that's one of the things I look at. Smaller folks, we got to get them connected, reliable, and affordable power. It's critical to them as well. So.
And I'd also say, don't wait till the last minute to talk to your utility providers. A lot of the times, and we have very aggressive, existing industry program where we're going out visiting with companies and looking for opportunities for growth and trying to identify that. But a lot of times, we're going we're going to do an expansion, and we're going to need, another 1 million gallons of water and, another 10 megawatts, and we want to flip that switch again in 6 months. And it's like, no, so be out there talking. It's not, 18 months, 2 years in advance of any of that additional scaling up. You've got to be talking to your utility providers, because it's expensive to do that, and they need time to, prepare for that. And, sometimes that capacity is there, sometimes it's not, and it takes a long time to plan for that.
Yeah, I'll just maybe highlight that as an important point that from all three of you there, it's not a yes or a no, it's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's a
Absolutely.
key component of that discussion.
Right.
Yeah. I do want to take just a minute to see if there are questions. Certainly we want to be answering questions that are relevant to those of you who are sitting out here. So if there are questions that anyone has for the panel, we'd certainly welcome that. Yep.
But one of the issues that also comes up with these, I'm sorry, thank you. Is that better? Okay. We've talked about power, and that's great, but one of the issues that comes up in life sciences manufacturing is wastewater. So is Nebraska expecting companies to provide their own packaged wastewater plants, or is Nebraska, do the public utilities have the ability to take excess wastewater and then charge X amount of dollars to receive it?
Typically, you're going to have to do some pretreatment. Municipal systems can handle some BOD, some COD, but you may have to take out some level of fats and greases if it's there. Ammonia is something that's not really regulated yet, but will be. And so I think that they can take some, but probably not all. So there could be some pretreatment that's required for that. There are a few systems out there that have had some traditional heavy loading capabilities out there, but they're not as many of those.
And I'd say it's a value, it comes back to scale again. For example, our project is big scale, so we're going to include wastewater treatment as part of our facility. If you're building small facilities, probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah, great point. Any other burning questions you'd like to get to? Otherwise, we'll. Okay. I think one of the things that we've heard pretty loud and clear, both from the panelists and that question's another great example, is just the complexity of the scale-up process, of the startup process. So, Kelly, I'll start with you again, and then others please weigh in. But how do you get a handle on that as a startup? You've got this idea, you've got the science, but there's all these other things. What advice do you have to get a handle on all those other things?
No, that's a great point, because I certainly underestimated the complexity of everything you've got to do to bring steel on the ground to fruition. It's very complicated. A couple of advices I can think of is, one is trying to leverage consulting where you can. One of the critical things for a startup is your burn rate, right? You got to keep lean. You can't be bringing a big staff on to do everything. And when you're a jack of all trades, that means you're a master of none, right? So some of these things you've got to be really on. You can't just be a generalist. So you really do have to find the right partners that are willing to perhaps take some risk with you along the way. And it's ever increasingly complex.
Any other observations? I mean, I would, go ahead.
I absolutely. I think starting a small business could not be more complex today, and only getting more complex with every minute. All I'll say for OPPD is, since I've been on board, we have a great suite of customer care managers that have helped, that work with small businesses with rebates for solar, energy efficiency work, trying to help them with interconnections and other work. So I think in public power in general, and PPD as well, there's a real care, because we have an obligation to serve, serve our customers, and we really consider it a mission to serve our customers. So we enjoy working with small businesses to try to make that transition and keep them viable, help them prosper, because when they prosper, we prosper. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would have said as well. The three of you represent part of the answer to that in your teams. But the company has to ask. The company has to reach out.
The company has to ask, but I think the partnership is that key word that's there, right? Is the company is looking at how do I raise my capital stack? How do I implement this? They're looking at the technology and some of those things, right? So relying on your local partners to help you through some of the process on some of that on the ground local development activities is critical, and that's why we're here. And we know the process, and we love doing it. So we want to help you grow. So, but you have to reach out to us and talk to us to get the help.
Yeah. Well, with the last couple minutes, certainly I'm sure we have startups or those that want to be, or those who were recently in the audience and watching. And so just maybe one piece of advice that you would have from each of your unique perspectives for someone who's beginning that scaling journey. So Mark, how about we start at the far end with this one?
I knew you were going to do that.
That's right.
Again, I think it, the most important part of advice is just to work with your local folks, find those partners, but make sure you understand that local process and find those folks that are out there gonna help you. Again, there's a lot of great folks across the spectrum that are there, and just reach out.
Kind of heard it before, but engage with your local utilities early on. We do want to be innovative and creative and partner with you. So engage with us really early on to find those innovative, creative solutions to your needs. So that would be my advice early on, right away.
Just to add, for continued engagement for the early stages is obviously important. This is mentioned here many times before. I'll just say, maybe appealing to some of the supply chain, the larger global businesses, we've got to build a lot of generation. We in the country in general, and in OPPD's zone as well, we need more of everything: wind, solar, base load generation to meet the demand. This is the fastest growing economic county in the country, I think, is Dodge right now, and we need partnerships. We got to build, and your support and finding ways to work with us to find how we can support you in your value chains and value webs, and having your support when it comes time to build 300 megawatt solar fields or 500 megawatt gas plants, or that kind of support is really important, because without that, we just can't. We got to the physics. We got to make the electrons. So that's my appeal for further cooperation on both sides to the community, business community as a whole.
And I'd say time management. As a startup, you're working on personal time, not corporate time. And I spent a lot of years in the corporate world, but you want to turn a document, I'm on personal time, I'll get it to you in the next hour. A corporate guy might say, yeah, I'll get it to you in 6 weeks. And so then we have a little negotiation to do, but you always like to underpromise and overdeliver. And my personal experience has been I'm doing the opposite for the last couple of years, and
Right.
so it's really hard to get your time paradigm set, because everything's more complex than you think. People don't respond as quickly as you'd like them to, and that's the way the world works.
Yeah. Yeah, that complexity piece, I hope, is one message that we take out of this, and understanding that those elements are things maybe you haven't thought about yet, because you're thinking about your deal as a startup or a scale-up, and all of those are going to matter on that journey. With that is our time. I want to thank Mark and Kelly and Nicole and Cliff for sharing their expertise. Obviously, they'll be around, so if any of you have questions about the expertise that they bring to the table, please do catch them as we go through the rest of the day today and tomorrow. And thanks for being here.